All right. So what we're going to be doing today, you guys, we are going to be talking about the top layer of color or the local color. So far what you've been doing on your canvases is creating the underpainting. The underpainting has a very special relationship with the objects in the still life. Who can remind me what that relationship is color-wise? Okay, they are complementary colors. For example, if we look at the blue vase, the numerous blue vases that are in the still life, okay, and we take a look at blue on our color theory chart, we notice that orange is the complement. So in our underpaint, we should have variations of orange, and we've already gone over this part of it. My assumption today is that you are done with your underpainting, and we are now ready to start doing the top layer of color, which also has a special name. It's called the local color. So the local color is what we actually see in front of us. Now, before I start actually painting anything, I want you guys to look at the blue bottles that you see in that still life. When we're looking at those blue bottles, there are 3 of them that are very close to each other right over here. Obviously, I hope you can see that they're not all exactly the same color. Do you see that? All right. You have spent a great deal of time learning how to make variations of colors. Who could tell me what I would do if I was painting the small blue bottle here, which will be blue, okay? I could have some white mixed in with the blue to make what kind of variation if I'm adding white into it, or black?
Monochromatic.
Monochromatic. So if I'm making a transition in that blue bottle that shows the lighter areas and the darker areas, it's monochromatic. Take just a second, though, before we do that, to look at the bottle that is below the large, tall blue form, this one with the handle on the side. You guys see that one? Omar, do you see that one? The one that's lower than the tall blue bottle? Do you notice that that is not a pure blue, that it looks kind of grayed out a little bit? There are 2 ways you could approach making that particular blue color. You could do that by actually mixing gray into the blue. Another thing that you could do is vary the intensity of the blue. And when you vary the intensity of the blue with its complement and then put a touch of white, that also gives you the potential for making numerous additional variations of a color. So the first thing I hope that you notice today is that my painting is no longer flat. When we're ready to start local color, and this is a big change for you guys, so please listen. I expect that when we're actually painting what's in front of us, that we are using an easel. Okay, an easel, these are table easels, sit in front of you. This is why I've told you guys no one can sit on the interior ring like where Jack and Omar are right now, because we have to have it positioned so we can see the still life. The other thing that you're going to notice is that in addition to my ice tray with my paint colors for mixing, I have out a mixing tray, and I'm going to be allowing you guys to use these starting today. Now, the issue with mixing trays, these are not for you to put a gallon of paint on and keep it for 3 weeks. Okay, this is for small amounts of paint. These get cleaned at the end of every hour. So what I would suggest that you do, if I'm going to be making some variations of blue, I can take some of my blue and do it up here, but I would need to use it all at one painting session. Okay, does that make sense to you? All right. So I also have mentioned to you guys using palette knives for mixing. I'm going to be using that today. So I'm going to begin by doing a little bit of paint on this area for this little blue bottle. And kind of the goal that I have in mind is to create some variations of blue, kind of like you see in this one. Now this one was done really quickly in just a few minutes as a demo for students, so there's some proportion issues. But you can see that there are multiple blues that are inside of this little blue bottle. It's not just one flat blue. And hopefully you can also notice that there are gaps in the blue where the underpaint still shows. Does everybody see that? All right, so let's get started with attempting to do that. I'm going to start out making some variations of my blue. And when you're doing painting like this, we are going to mix some colors in our tray when we need a lot of it, but you also can mix directly on the canvas. This is what makes it a little bit different than our design painting that we did with the color theory chart. I can actually take and dip my brush into a paint and just go directly into paint here and paint it, which I'll be demonstrating as I work. So I'm going to start out making a close variation to that color by taking a little bit of white and mixing it with my blue. That's going to be my basic blue, and I also know I'm going to need a darker blue because as I look at that, I can see that they're dark and light blues. I could also do this, as I mentioned, by doing it directly on the canvas, which I'll be showing you too. Now, when we're doing these kinds of paintings, the same rules apply that we use with our oil pastel. Remember with the oil pastel, we said we were going to try to avoid using a lot of black? We're going to do the same thing on this. I want you to experiment with making variations of color, Tenzin, by mixing color together, not by always relying on the black. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start on one area where I see some blue. This is the basic blue that I'm going to use. I notice that there's a darker shadow in this region, so I'm going to come in and I'm using 2 brushes so that the demo won't take as long. You can certainly come in and clean your brush. You're going to notice that the orange that we have on the canvas already does make the intensity of the blue different. It's the same color mixing things that we have happen when you did your intensity scale. So while this is wet, I'm going to take a little bit of black. And mix into this. If you're trying to create a value transition in your paint, it's important that you work with it when it is wet. Because we're not doing straight design paintings anymore, it's okay if you dip your brush and contaminate colors. It's your palette. It might mean more mixing for you later, but that is up to you. That's your discretion. Now in this area here, I'm noticing a much larger area that is a lighter blue. So I'm going to come in with some white, and I'm going to put some white here that I can contaminate freely. And I'm going to mix this on the canvas. So I've got a little bit of white on my brush, I've got a little bit of blue. And because both sections of this paint are wet, they're going to blend. What I'm actually seeing through this bottle is a reflection of the fabric behind it. And I'm going to make a darker variation here and fade that together into it. What you're really looking for, as with any kind of art piece where you're replicating reality, be it a drawing, be it a painting, if you're trying to make something look quote unquote real, you're looking for value shifts. You're looking for darks, you're looking for lights. I'm going to put a little bit of dark blue behind this. Obviously, we're not going to finish this today. We're just going to get started with it. Now, am I only limited to black and white? Absolutely not. We know that we can come in with other colors and blend into this. I'm trying to establish the dark and light shapes that I see in the beginning behind the bottle. Because I'm doing this kind of quickly, the paint will blend more. Do you see how I can pull some of that blue right into that lighter blue that I put down earlier? Hopefully you're seeing that. Clean out this brush so I can mix. put some base blue here, and then I'm going to come over this with some lighter values, and I could even use straight white if I wanted to do a lighter value. Now, if you think it's over mixing and looking too muddy, then you would let an area firm up a little bit or dry before you continue mixing. Notice that when I'm applying the paint, I tend to pull the brush to the side a great deal. Every one of you in here will develop your own style for painting. Some of you will dab the brush and make dots. Some of you will pull the brush and make long strokes. That is kind of your own intuitive, natural thing. A lot of what happens with painting is practice. You have to find what works for you. And yes, I said dab, I know. When I come over and work with you this time, I will be trying to replicate your style. So if you're a person who does a lot of dots, then I'll try to do that when I help you. Having said that, we don't want these to all look alike. Are you getting the idea how I'm pretty quickly just establishing some variations of lights and darks?
Mm-hmm.
This is far from finished, okay? This is like a 5-minute painting session. I'm gonna work on this a little bit more, and then I'll call you over to look at it. I'm gonna continue looking for darks and lights and blending these while you get started, okay? And so we'll see how much I can accomplish in maybe 5-10 more minutes. All right, you guys go get started. Thank you.